Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLS Siren. I'm your host, the counselor. Previously, I was talking about disrespectful children. However, in this session here, we're going to be talking about disrespectful teenagers. And I mean, that's to me a little different. Well, actually, it's a lot different than when they're just the little ones, because the little ones are a little bit more vulnerable and the decisions that they make are really new in their lives, right? They're just developing. And as do teenagers. However, it's just it appears as more aggressive disrespect when they become teenagers. And trying to understand that is important. I mean, teenagers can really put you to the test. You thought that when they were young that was going to be challenging because you're bringing them from 0 to what, 12, 13, and that's a challenge in itself. And when they're really young, you're just helping them work through it. But when they become teens, whoa, this is where the real challenges come. And it really tests you as a parent. And sometimes you wonder, with such disrespect, if you're going to have a relationship with your children because you're figuring, where is this coming from? I mean, I'm one of the parents that's thinking to themselves, like, is what I've raised? Is this what's in front of me? Do I really deserve this disrespect? Right? And really, we all ask ourselves that. Why are some of these teenagers so disrespectful? And why am I having such a challenging time with these kids? And it feels like no matter what I say, I'm not getting any headway. And the children are just rhyming off like everybody's supposed to understand everything their way, realizing that I'm the adult. I have enough of my own responsibilities and my own issues, and not to mention, you know, other issues with work or what have you. I got to deal with the home front, and I have a little person in here, sometimes not so little, but I have a teenager in front of me that seems to be giving me such disrespect. What is going on? And see, I'm speaking with other clients and friends, and they're dealing with the same. Like, teenagers are tough, they're challenging. And sometimes it gets to the point where you're just not on the same page, whether you got too much going on or not. It's just they're battling you and they're disrespecting you. And for all those people who we need to focus on this subject, please stay tuned because we're going to have to go in. We're going to have to figure this thing out for the betterment of all people because these are some of the most challenging years. Those teenage years, trying to find themselves, trying to figure things out, but going off. Like, if you don't have a basic understanding, right, about the teenage mind, then you don't even have a chance. You don't even begin to understand what they're going through. You have to understand that when you're dealing with a disrespectful teenager who's muttering under their breath when you ask them to do something for you, right? Or they're rolling their eyes at you when you're being serious, or they're not taking things seriously, so they end up slamming doors when you tell them that they can't do certain things or there's limits on certain things. And there's just so much disrespect, and you're talking to them and they're yelling and screaming and calling you out of your name sometimes, right? Calling you out of your name, and you love your children, right? However, these are things that for some reason, no matter how much you say to them, they don't sting any less when they apologize. Because maybe you're of the culture, like, you don't do that. You don't use profanity or refer to me, right, in a certain way. Or you maintain your cool, right? So this is what a lot of parents are thinking. They're like, you don't lose your cool. You have to remain respectful. But no, it's not the case. A lot of them got things going on, and some of us don't even begin to understand how to enter that world. And we enter it through incidents a lot of the times. When something goes wrong, we become alerted to something, right? And then we respond. But a lot of times when things are going on, most of us are occupied, right? And we got things going on in our own lives. We didn't even realize what's going on in their world. But there are things going on in their world. But before we even talk about things going on in their world, we have to understand that there has to be some boundaries and some rules for sure. But they think differently. You want to be respected and you should be respected, but you're getting disrespect. But for you to understand this disrespect that you're getting from these teenagers, you have to take something into consideration. The teenage brain. Understanding how they think, how their brain is developing is so important. Remember, by those early ages, what, 6, 5, 6, most of the brain structure has already been formed in these teenagers. So picture, you know what I mean, the wiring of this brain, the intricacies of this brain, right? Think about where it's at this stage when 95% has been structured by the age of 6 and they're teenagers now. What's going on there? So right now, you have to think of their minds and their brain cells as being open to signals and influenced by everything around them. And it's almost like a stimulus center, an entertainment center that's still not wired in. So there's a lot of sensors out there in that teenage brain that's picking up on everything. Elastoplasty is like the cells in that brain that continue to learn. Although a majority percentage was developed in there, that 5% is a tremendous amount that's still got super feelers out there. And these wires are out there and they're picking up on everything and reacting to everything. And it's almost like there's a part of them that they're not going to be able to control. They're going to have to go through all these impulses, go through all these emotions as they develop through this stage. So to me, at this teenage stage, these teenagers, their brains are wired differently. It's almost like a theme park of excitement. There's so many things going on. And they're heavily influenced in a lot of different ways. But basically, they're trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in. And they're sensitive to everything. And every emotion's going to come into play. And this is the stage where it happens. And many of us, we're not prepared for this. We don't really understand this. We're just dealing with it. See, a lot of us just want to keep things cool and keep our households in control and just maintain that level of respect. But see, this is why you have to understand the basic human development, the stage of development. You need to know this before you even try to deal with it. You need to understand that this is a part of their cognitive design, their mind, how it's operating at this stage. So you got to think about that brain as like a control center. And the frontal lobe, the frontal cortex, controls, makes decisions, forms judgments, controls your emotional impulses. And this isn't developed yet in a teenager. See, that's important to understand. The prefrontal cortex, that is not developed in teenagers. So a lot of the decisions are impulsive, reactive, and simply an emotional wreck. See, this is a time where teenagers, they easily get angered and frustrated, sometimes with themselves, in addition to other external situations. And they go through these mood swings that maybe we don't experience. See, we've gone through, we forget it. We just went through it ourselves. But how easily we forget. So we need to come back and remind ourselves that yes, they are going to go through these mood swings. They are going to be very emotional and sensitive. And sometimes it'll appear they're insensitive. But you have to understand the biological point that I'm trying to make. Things are different. High sensitivity, limited control in the area that needs the control because they're growing, right? So they still have to develop these things in their mind. They still have to mature and develop in their mind. All these things that are going on. It's a very unstable part of their life stage where they're all over the place, basically. So you have to think about this emotional state that they could be in and out of, and how this behavior will impact the situation. So you just don't go in from the defensive point of view. You have to understand that when they are disrespectful to parents, it's really a sign that some emotional needs aren't being met. And this could be appearing as disrespectful behavior. As I told you earlier, it's a way of getting attention. And even showing you that something's wrong and they're not feeling themselves. See, there's ways to think about that too. Like, this is internal, but it also has its external influences where they go through the highs and lows and, messages and media and all that, as I mentioned earlier, on what influences them. Things that happen, they might not feel like they want to talk about. They might not know how to talk about what's on their mind. So you might have to pull them to the side and sit down and let them know that they can talk about things with you. You have to love them. And it's going to be hard. You're going to have to love them unconditionally, and it's going to be a challenge. Because they're going to be challenging you. And you have to understand that there's a part in that adolescent that feels powerless, unstable, insecure, and even vulnerable at times. But they need you to show them that they need that support and unconditional love. Because we have to think about the mindset you have to get into when you're trying to cope with this. Because often we are reactive. And understanding that they have different views from our views is a starting point. That's definitely where you should begin when you're trying to work with teenagers. You have to first acknowledge that no, you're not, they are a separate entity. Yes, they come from you. However, they are still separate. And they have separate points of view. And I know a lot of the times as parents, we fall into this thing where we say, is even though they have a separate point of view, my view is going to be the dominating view, because we got to prevent some chaos here. We got to have some control and some limitations. And I'm the parent, and I got to keep that known. Yes, you do. You got to have certain things. But when they're teenagers, you have to understand that they're going to require some attention, and they're going to need some power. And they're going to have their points of view, and they're going to go through their different experiences for sure. But you, as the parent, have to look at it like they're different. And there's something going on here. And if I have an open mind, I can cope with it. Right? And they're going to challenge you. See, that's what teenagers do. Right? When they're trying to get, independent, trying to develop themselves, as teenagers in this world of impeding importance, whereas you're looked up as an individual with respect, they're going for that. So they want to establish some emotional autonomy. They want some power that we've always had. They just want some of that. See, because you can only try to control the situation in the home for so many years before you have to transfer some power. And see, we're going to have to talk about the transfer of power, because a lot of you don't know how to transfer power to your children, right? You don't understand because you're too busy trying to keep the power in because you think it's just the power that maintains the control. But you don't understand. You got to transfer that power slowly. See, a lot of people don't know how to do that, so their children grow up. And then, even when they get lost in the woods, they can't find themselves back because you inserted so much power on them, they don't feel they can talk to you when they go through those deep, deep moments. Because that's going to happen anyways for a lot of parents. You don't need a special occasion for that. A lot of the kids are going to feel at a certain age when they're growing, especially the teenagers. They're going to feel that, they're going to encounter some things that they might not be able to talk to their parents. They're going to experience some things. That's already a given. You need to put that in the formula right there. That there's going to be a part of them that they're not going to be able to tell you. So when they get older and they come into some real problems, older teens, 18, 19, and they're dealing with some serious. See, that boat's sailed if you don't have an open mind. That boat's gone. So they're not even going to think of resorting to you because you've had so much power and you never transferred any of the power. So they feel going to you, it's a wall. It's a wall they'll never climb. They'll never get over because you are set in your ways. And there's too many of us that get set in our ways. There's too many of us that just draw the line and go, you know what, I get my respect or it's nothing. And yes, you have to have your respect, but they got to have some too. Maybe you got to definitely have your higher percent for sure, but you got to make sure they're getting something. You got to feed them. You got to transfer. You got to teach them and you got to reach them. And you can't reach them if you stop taking. See, people can't get past the comments. They can't get past it. I know limits, you know limits, but I'm saying a lot of people just jump to react right off the bat. Nobody's talking about it. People are just reacting. And it's sides. Who's right, who's wrong. But when you're a parent, you can't even look at that. That's not even the point. The point is you just are understanding and learning that there's a role that you got to play. It's not going to be easy by any means, but you got a role to play. And when they're challenging you and they're, going at those rules and their conflict and confrontation is happening so much that you're at your wit's end. You're not even sure what to do or go or what to say, where to go, or what to say, because you're dealing with it all the time. And it's getting too much for you. And you don't know where to go or what to do. And no matter who talks to you, it's a unique situation. But you know one thing, it can't last. Somebody's going to give in. And who usually gives in? Usually they give in. And a lot of times they're giving in because they're suffering, because you're pushing that power on them. So they internalize. And then they go out there and do some things, right, that, you know what I mean, they don't necessarily do out of, oh, I have to go out there and be bad. They're doing it out of reacting. See, I believe what goes in must come out. And if they're frustrated and they're building it, and see, you got that power thing on where you're the superhero, right? With every superhero, there has to be a villain. And they're going to feel like the villain because you have all the power. So then tell me something. If you have all the power, how are you expecting them to grow up into productive human beings and adults to make rational decisions if you don't let them get some power or you don't transfer some power. But when it comes to disrespect, you just have to understand that you're going to have to be a role model yourself. You're going to have to change your perspective. You're going to have to model the behavior in that teenager that you're going to want to see. And it's going to be hard. And see, people, what happens most often is they're like, you're not really telling me anything, counselor, that I haven't heard before. I try to be nice. And they do. And a lot of people tell me, oh, I tried to be nice, I tried to compromise and listen to them, and they just didn't seem to get it. They kept going on, and next thing you know, we were both in it, and it just turned into a flop. We got nowhere. We were just carrying on with each other, and I was not letting that child tell me what to do or tear apart my house or go through these things. I'm not going to do it. It's me or them, and it's not going to be me. And I've heard that a million times. But it's not easy, and it's not a one-time pony. It's going to take work. It's going to take commitment. And it's going to take consistency. You're going to have to model the behavior that you want to see. Because they're going to come with who they are in all different sorts of facets. They're going to display all different types of behaviors. And you know what? Like, a lot of us get dragged in and we respond. However, you're going to have to remember you are being watched by them. How you respond, they're going to respond. And if you want them to be respectful towards you, you're going to have to adopt some of that towards them. Even your other half. Even in relationships and friendships and family that you talk to. This is what's important. You got to give some of that respect. You're going to have to be a role model if you're going to try to work with some of these people. And when it comes to disrespectful teens especially, you're going to have to show them and role model what the expectation is. And please, do not get it twisted. They are working towards a level of independence. And don't get it wrong. Disrespect towards parents should not be tolerated. No. You have to strategize and get through that by doing some of these things I'm talking about when you're dealing with your teenagers. No, it should not be tolerated. But you have to understand, if there's a process on how to approach, you're going to do a lot better and cope with it. And you're going to have to understand that, no, you don't let them abuse you or carry on, none of that. No, that's not what it is. You're working through this. So you have to understand that they're trying to be independent people. And they're feeling powerless. And maybe because you have that power, right? And it is true. When you're the household individuals in there running the show, right? They got to start growing. And they're itching to do that growth. But you have to understand, they're trying to be their independent selves as well. There has to be some balance of power. And that lies with us. And that lies in the rules and expectations that we have established. So when you set up some rules and some expectations, make sure it includes them having some power and certain say, right? That they matter. Because you're going to see the talking back. You know what I mean? You're going to see things that you're not going to be pleased with. But when they're doing that, they're trying to get back that power that you have. They want some of that. They want some of that power. So they're challenging you. They're talking back. Okay? This is what happens. This is a natural progression. They are learning in ways to express themselves. And the truth is, they are inappropriately expressing themselves. But this is why you get this understanding. This is why you're listening to the counselor, is because you are learning ways yourself on how to respond to that teenager who's being disrespectful. How to understand that it's a process that they're going through. And they have their own ideas and their own opinions. And it's just a part of growing up. Now, I do recommend that we have to make decisions when it comes to this disrespect. We gotta kind of categorize them in terms of importance. Like if it's mild things, like I said, those are little things you can get through. You know what I mean? Like, if they're doing little things that you're talking to, like say your good friend, and kids do this. Like say the other day I was talking to a friend in the backyard, and my child came in, and we were in the middle of a really good conversation, and the child walked right in between us, whistling. And you know what? Like just whistling a little louder so that, and the funny thing is they walked in between us, walked right past us, and then decided that they're going to stand there and do that whistling even though we were talking. And see, when I was talking with somebody, I normally don't stop because I know that if you stop a lot of the times, you know what I mean, they've gotten their point. But instead, I kind of ignored it. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I'm not going to let this. But then it got to a point where I thought, you know what? I could stop, and then I could correct them, or I could keep talking. See, after a minute, he stopped whistling, and then I turned around and I said, okay, whatever. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to say nothing because they stopped, which was good. So I didn't really, get in upset or nothing. And I knew it was disrespectful. But then when I realized and I'm thinking about it, it's really about they just wanted their attention. They came here and they, got their little bit of attention and walked right in between. And they're teenagers, right? So walked right past, listening to the music. I'm like, whistling. They knew we were talking. But the point is that I didn't make a scene. I just felt, you know what? I'm going to talk to them later. And I did. I just kind of ignored it temporarily for that time. I'm not saying ignored altogether. I said just for that time. So I just talked to them about it after that person was gone. See, that's what I'm talking about. But, I could probably avoid these things if I were to be proactive, right? If I was more proactive, then, and if I were to say to myself, what could I have done to prevent things like that? Well, maybe I could have set some clear guidelines and be consistent with my boundaries. Like that's a big reason why a lot of people are disrespected because there's no set clear boundaries and guidelines that they put in place. So when the kids don't have any consistency and they're not clear about the expectations around you, then they tend to cross that, especially teenagers, right? There are some that know, and once it's established, they kind of grow up knowing what it's all. But you still got to take this into account that as teenagers, their brains start to go a little bit, sensitive and emotional, and they're trying to figure these things out for themselves. So you have to set some clear and consistent boundaries to make sure that you can eliminate the silly stuff because the silly stuff will get on your nerves after a while. I got to tell you something. Like it's kind of funny because when I was growing up, I used to see people being raised, and a lot of times I grew up around people who were quite strict in their family. Then I used to see people I knew my age back then who were in families, and their family used to let them do whatever, gave them a lot of privileges. They're allowed to do their own thing. And then when they grew up, my friends, that, they used to invite us over the house when we were just younger, and all of us kids would go over there. And, the parent would be treating the kid like you've seen it where the parent treats their kid like they're adults and a party hoster. You know what I mean? They're the host of the mostest, and the parents are sitting back, and the kids are bringing these kids to the house, and the parent is letting the kids do whatever they want to do, and it seemed like the kids doing more parenting than anything, but it happens. But the problem is that the truth, it be told, is that if you spoil your children, I'm telling you, there is a substantial chance that when they grow up, they're going to be disrespect as they grow, and especially in those teenage years. Those are the same kids who are very disrespectful. And I found it even back then, they were very disrespectful. Telling their parents what to do, and go, like, it was just ridiculous. And I was in awe. And it wasn't until I got older and I realized, like, oh my goodness, like, this is true. The more you give them to spoil them, it really messes with them. And they just get out of control. But if you have rules in place, firm rules, like, it's going to be 10 times better. Is teenage disrespect going to happen? Yes, it's inevitable. But you cut down so much when you have, a few firm rules in place. Not a lot. That's not what it's about. Just a couple rules that they understand what's going on, and they've been in place for a long time. You just cuts out a lot of foolishness. If you have rules. But there are people, the problem is they have rules, but they're not consistent rules. And that's the problem. They only apply them when something's wrong. But the rules are, or they ignore them, you know, occasionally. And kids push it throughout. And then the rules, so in actuality, there are no real rules in place. There's assumed rules. And that's what you don't want to be doing. You want to be consistent in your rules and let them know, as they're young people out there who don't know or understand you, um, they need some guidelines and just a few rules as the kids grow up in place, being consistent, firm but fair. That's just going to help the situation tremendously. But there will be disrespectful because it's a phase, you know? Like, what am I talking about as far as think of some of the rules? Like, even when it comes to, and I found this one to be a real challenge. And I couldn't even understand it, even when I was talking to the young people today out there. But, like, when you let your child, let's say, stay up all night. And see, I'm not really sure how a lot of people out there do it, but I know there were rules set, even when I was growing up, that you were to go to bed at a certain time. Right? And then it loosened up as they got much older, of course. But if I didn't have any rules all these years, then it would have been so much more problematic. But I set clear, consistent rules. See, and if you have kids who are used to it, they go to bed at 8, and then maybe the next year it's 8:39, and next year 9:30, right? So then you could regulate. That's so good. However, if you have no rules, where you haven't started from anywhere, you're in trouble. You're creating an issue because that's when you have the children who they forget. They have no concept. So from an early age, they're figuring, if you don't have any rules, why should I? And oddly enough, they start to see themselves with all these freedoms that you have. So they're out there doing what they want to do, staying up all night, and see, when you're tired, right there, you see, you know what? Hi. You want to get some sleep, and they're up all night doing what they want to do. There's no structure in place. And then when you do tell them and approach them, hey, listen, you know what? I got to get up in the morning. You're gonna have to cut it down. You know what I mean? They're not gonna listen to that because they had no established rules. There's no clear, consistent boundaries in place. So they feel they could do what they want to do. So they're going to give it to you harder because they're going to be like, what are you telling me what to do for? You know what I mean? I don't have to listen to you. I do what I want to do. You started that. So just keep that in mind. But the teenage brain is going to challenge. And they're going to have every response, whether it's rational or not, for anything that you say because they have something to prove. And be careful, because when you have two parents in the house, you have to make sure that your rules are being applied on the same level. Make sure those are consistent as well, because there's a lot of problems that can arise when you have two different parents doing two different things expecting the same result. One might think that, oh, you know what? You can go here and stay out here this late. And the other one will say, well, no, I told them they could do this. And then the child becomes confused, and that even gives them more room for argument. And not only that, it shows that there's inconsistency. No one's following rules. The child looks at you two like, you two can't even agree on anything. I'm not listening to you. And gives them a reason to create more havoc. And if they're real crafty, if you've seen this in some households, that child will see the inconsistency between the parents and disrespectfully try to use the parents against each other. Right? And next thing you know, they're disrespecting your relationship because they're in the middle of it. And you allowed them to get in the middle of it because you both weren't on the same page. And that's what happens when you're not on the same page. So you have to be on the same page. All these things are going to help when you're trying to deal with the teenager who's very disrespectful. Remember that. Where one parent is lax, the other one may not be, and they might be strict. Teenagers can exploit this inconsistency, and they will play you against each other. And there's days, and you know it, there's days where one parent will be like, well, you didn't talk to me about this. No, you got to sit down, because then you start arguing with your partner. You start getting into it, and it causes some chaos. And next thing you know, you're arguing with each other, all because that child knows how to manipulate. So you want to eliminate that altogether. You want to make sure you're consistent. And there will be days where you're feeling vulnerable, tired, you don't even want to go through it. They're challenging you, pushing the button, and they know. Remember, teenagers are crafty. They're good observers when they want to be. And they tune in. And they play that manipulation game so good. And the reason why a lot of times they get away with it so long is because we're busy. We got 100 things on our mind. We're not thinking about what this child is trying to do. Because remember, all they're trying to do is get their needs met. That's it. They're just trying to get their needs met. Trying to be independent. Trying to get some attention. That's what they want. And see, they get all that time to focus on that. You're busy. You got to think about 10 different things in a day, right? They're just part of the equation, not all of the equation. But see, they got the power to focus when they want to focus. So they're focusing on their needs. So if you're inconsistent, that is breeding grounds for manipulation for your teens. And I'm telling you, I've heard it has messed up some relationships to the point that people walk away because they could not get along, and there was a lot of manipulation. And when I sit them down in my office to talk to them about what is going on with their relationship, lo and behold, there's a third party that's not even in the room that was doing some major manipulating, keeping them two on their toes. And that was that teenager who knew what to do, what to say, how to play their hand, and get their way. And that's what the teenager did, because that's all they could do. That was what their goal was. That was their life's mission, to manipulate. And that's a phase they're going through. And if you're not aware of this phase, it could take you. It could take you down a dark hole that you might not be able to come back from. Because you might be focused on the other partner when you have a third party. So you got to be consistent, and you have to take the time out to set up some clear guidelines, right? But you want to be supportive of them, but be aware that you want to be on the same page, or it could be a process that deteriorates more than just your teenage parent relationship. It can impact in so many different ways. So just understanding these things. And there are individuals that say, You make it sound so easy. It's not that easy. And I said, it's not that easy. And I know there are challenges out there. And I know there are parents who are like, what about this fear factor where you have when you're trying to deal with them? Yeah, you got to look at them. And I'm not going to give you a formula on how you deal with them if they're big and aggressive. Not yet. But I am going to tell you there's a fear factor that we are going to consider. But before we go into deep about that fear factor, and you know what I mean, some of those teenagers that are not only scrapping off, they're stepping forward. Or they're in that threatening tone and that threatening behavior, right? They're manipulating, but they're doing more than manipulating. They get into the threatening, right? And that's where I've had plenty of parents talk to me about, yeah, but there's a certain point where I go to and then I chill out because they seem to be getting out of control. See, that right there is what I call the fear factor. And the reason why I call it the fear factor is because they know they got something on you. Whether it's their size, their aggression, your vulnerability at the moment, whether you can't see them correctly in the sense that they feel that there's something about you that's just not right at that point, where you're not focused and they could get you by surprise and manipulate and even turn it into their advantage. Oh yes, all that could be at play. But I call it their fear factor is because there is a part of them that's using some fear to steer them in a way that they choose so that they can accomplish their goals. That fear factor is very common in a lot of situations. And I can't tell people to just challenge it and take it on. I can't tell you just that. But I got to tell you one thing. I got to tell you, you got to watch it. You can't be reactive. You got to understand that there will be people that are afraid of some of their kids. But you got to get help with it. So I have to say you can't be afraid. So you have to make it so that you're not afraid. You got to involve people so you outnumber them and you work with somebody to get you support, but you can't. You got to find them help, support, whatever. You can't live in an environment where you're afraid of your kids and they're manipulating you to the point where they got some control in there. And it happens. And some people deal with it. But I'm going to give you the no. Because if you are really afraid of your kids, it's not just about teenage disrespect. That's going to be about teenage turning into adult disrespect. And that's one thing you do not want. You know they're going through a phase, but you want to make sure they snap out of that phase. And it's not going to be snapped out of if you're afraid and they already got the power over you when they're young. No, you got to make sure you put your foot down. You got to set some consequences and you got to be able to follow through on them. You can't be doing what a lot of those parents out there doing, telling their kids, oh, you know what? I'll threaten you with this and threaten you with that. No, you got to mean what you say, because if you don't mean what you say, don't say nothing. Do not talk to this kid about all the different things you're going to do. If you say you're going to do it, do it. But do it with the thought process as you have a strategy in what you're doing when you take action. Don't do it just to react. Just know that when you do make that move, it's going to make an impression. And if it doesn't make that impression, it's because you weren't believable. And you've done it before. And they didn't believe you. And see, when you do it so many times and you don't really follow through on it, they don't take you serious. So when you actually do follow through on it, they can't believe it. Can't accept it, can't believe it, don't want to hear about it, nothing. And some of them can't even comprehend it. And they get their backs up and they stir it up. They stir it up. It's not familiar to me. I'm challenging this one for sure. See, that's why you can't do that. You have to set some consequences and you got to follow through on it. You know, it's nice to look at your teenagers and compliment them when they're doing good, give them that positive reinforcement when the behavior is good. But on the other side of that coin, you're going to have to set some consequences for some of that bad behavior. Because, A, there is a point you could go through. And the truth is, we as parents realize if we don't set something up, some sort of consequences, and we always get pushed. We always get pushed to that point where we keep going. We set our stuff and we keep getting pushed to the next level, the next level, the next level. And we set it again and we push it to the next level. And a lot of people will say, you set your goals and don't let them push you to the next level. I'm saying, yes, you do. They're yours. You're responsible. You set that goal. And if they push you to that next level, you push right back to that level that you set up. Do you understand? Understand they can push it, but you can bring it back. See, that's the belief system and what you got to do. It is work. You don't ever give up on it. It's tough. You don't pass the buck. You don't make excuses. But if they push the line, you know where that line is and you get right back to it. You work, say, I'm not just not moving, no. You could be flexible. You could go, yo, flexible don't mean let go. Flexible means I know you're pushing, but we're coming right back because this is where it's going to be. I'm not changing the time. Now, I could work with you in between, you know what I mean? Where you could do this, but I'm not changing. This is where I'm like you. This is my time. When it's time to stay in to this time, that's what I'm saying. You can go do certain things, but I'm saying this is set. So you set certain things and you stick with them. You might flex a little bit in the sense that they might need a little bit of leeway to meet that obligation, but you stick with it. Okay? You're not trying to be their best friend. Because that's what a lot of parents do. They try to be their best friend and then they wonder where the excessive disrespect. Because the thing is, the kids are observing you so often. They're learning from you. They're figuring you out. And they're learning about your strengths and your weaknesses. And when they learn about those weaknesses, they can capitalize on it. And if they're around long enough, they're going to continuously throw it in your face. So be mindful of these things. It's important to follow through on consequences. One of the biggest mistakes parents do is they threaten consequences in their peak when they're heated. And then they fail to act on them. And that was your first crack, your first break. And once they seen that you are no longer the power person, they are going to push it. So what I'm saying is you have to transfer some power, but first you have to set some boundaries and make sure you follow through. You are the person that you say you are. And people say, you know what? That's not really the way to do it. You should not be putting too many boundaries in front of your kids. And I say balance it, but put in what you got to put in. And people say, well, you know what? I think kids have too many boundaries as it is. I'm saying consequences, life has boundaries. So you're preparing them for it. You don't just transfer power, you transfer knowledge as well. Life has boundaries. Life has rules. And it has consequences. So us preparing them for them on how to manage themselves is important. And it does start in the home. See, we've getting away from the term where people go, oh, you know, the way that child's acting up, it starts from the home. It might start from the home, and it might fester into something else. But the blame game's not going to help anybody. The whole point is, from point of contact, teenagers can be influenced on so many different levels. And it's almost impossible to understand all the influences. However, you give yourself a better chance of being successful when you're communicating with them through this disrespect, when you have some understanding of these things. And you put some application into your approach. That's what I'm very big on. We know about the common mistakes these parents are making. Right? Believe it or not, a lot of these kids need some boundaries put in place. They do. They want to have something in there. Believe me, sometimes it's even safer for them. Now, there are a number, not all kids, but most kids want to have something in place, you know, and they will test, for sure, to test. They'll test them, but they want to have something in place too. It makes them feel safer, makes them feel protected, makes them understand that, you know what? somebody's, believe it or not, looking out for them. And they learn to trust in that. And they know when they're pushing it, but they're pushing it. And they're going to push it. To think that they're not going to push it is problematic. And there are people out there. You ever hear those people? You go out there and they're like, "Oh, my child, they're out there, and I never had a problem with them as a teenager." Well, watch out. Watch out. Because too many of us are trying to get our kids to be the goody goodies. We don't understand that there's so many influences out there. The kids got to let some things out. They do. They got to communicate. They got to let it out. I don't care who it is. I don't care how much money you got. You got to look at life like this. A lot of the influences and things that happen to you and you get inside yourself, whether it's good, bad, stress, whatever, you build things up and you have to get them out. You have to be a system. Okay? And you're always being influenced by things and taking things in. Messages, which is communication, feelings, etc., etc. So you have to be a cycle of systems where is all these things are going to impact you in your life. And I strongly believe that if it's not happening at this stage of the life, it's going to happen. So it might not happen as teenagers. It could happen there when you get older, or it can happen when you're younger. And there's people going, no, this child's been cool their whole life. Well, then that means you don't really know the child. And if you do know the child, it's 1 in a billion. Because we all, whether you're looking at people or not, there's a lot of things that they could be going through. We don't even know. But I know one thing about life cycle is we all go through things at different stages of our lives. See, a lot of us, the thing is we get onto this perspective is we're the ones going through it. Whether you're short, you're tall, you got 1 leg, 2 legs, homosexual, heterosexual, you're black, you're Chinese, you got hair, you ain't got no hair, you got too much hair, got 1 eye, no teeth, whatever it is, we always think we're the one that's going through things and nobody else goes through it like we go through. And it's not true, but we forget that as human beings a lot of the time. Sometimes we can't even cross that table to think of what that other person's feeling because we're stuck in our own feelings. A very selfish society in North America, I know that. But I'm saying when it comes to our children, when they're teenagers, it's just good to keep an open mind that they're going to go through things. And just to understand that you might not have the right stage of development when it comes to your children, but just understand that things are going to come up. And how you handle it or manage it or work with it is going to really dictate a lot. How many of us put work into our relationship? How many understand the dynamics of a family and the relationships within it? So much of us is missing in terms of that for whatever reason. And I don't think they get into it. It's almost like a mystery until you're in university. Psychology is very basic, gives you a very basic understanding, but the deep psychological, the stuff that you just see on a day-to-day with the family interactions, it's deep. And understanding more about relationships is what we should be doing because we need that. So we have to understand about this relationship we have with our teenagers. And we have to understand this basic that they're going to go through. Just what we're talking about today is so important. But you play a very big part. You are essential to how they develop and to what extent. And is this just a phase they're going to go through, or did you just give up? You cannot give up. You can get support, but you can't give up because when you understand this, you don't want to give up. If anything, if you have a really good understanding of trying to help, really, just trying to make a difference and see what they're going through. And you're just turn the page where you start thinking of them as individuals and what they could be going through. And you want to try to work with it because you're just like, okay, wait, I can work with this. And you will see, not in all cases, but I would say in many, 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 many cases, the kids will come around. They will. If they could get something applied, if you could even understand the power, the transfer of power, they'll come around. And it could be some going through a longer phase, but you never give up on them. You don't. The easiest thing to do is give up. See? That's the easiest thing to do, is to give up. And there are people that do. Oh, they're so disrespectful. I never want to deal with them again. I never want to deal with them. They're so rude, and I don't know what it is. It's what I didn't do. And a lot of people go, I didn't do nothing to them, and you might not have done anything to them. It could be a stage that they're going, or you could have done something. See? And you don't want to look at what you could be doing that ails them. But you're going to find out, if you change your perspective, you're going to find out what could be ailing them. Or you're going to enlist somebody to help you find out, if you have a change of mindset. Rather than the opposite of that, is where you become defensive and it's a control situation and I have to make control. That is a way to manage it. However, right, don't be surprised if it's a shutdown situation and the control, why it goes from generation to generation and generation, and there's no change. Right? There's no change. There's no understanding. It's just, that's how we work in our family. That's how we operate. And it works. What works is knowledge and understanding and experience, and applying that knowledge, understanding, and experience. Right? That's what works. You don't do the same old thing year after year after year if it's not effective. Or if, you know what I mean? If you can do better, you do better. If you can understand and get some perspective, then you do that. See, that's what we do. That's what we should be doing. So, if you understand that, you understand that consequences are not a good feeling for a lot of people. A lot of people don't really, um, eh, they're afraid of it, as I said. So some of them don't even know how to start, don't know where to begin. And they're, sometimes it's just a point where they just avoid it altogether. They know it's unacceptable, but they're like, you know what? And they avoid it. And we do, because they know it's going to be confrontational. So after a while, if you're feeling unease, and even if it's not fear, you're feeling, oh man, I know. See, we absorb people's emotions a lot. So we know, if I apply this student is going to, or this child of mine is going to get more agitated. So I'm going to do it. Listen, here's what you do when it comes to setting consequences, especially for bad behavior. Make sure the consequences are short term, not long term. Okay? I've seen so many parents who base the consequences on how they feel. And to be real with you, when it comes to teenagers, you could, oh, you know yourself. Sometimes you'll be setting those consequences because you're exhausted from work. You don't want to hear them talking anymore. You just want to be away from them. You find them stressful. So you associate with their consequence, or you're grounded for a month. And that's because you feel like, no, you know what? You did something so bad, you're grounded for a month. And you know what's really scary is, there's a lot of parents that get away with that, and they're on the kids. And sure, I'm not saying kids shouldn't be consequence, but I am saying be mindful that the decision that you make might be more than the kid needs, right? They might not need a month. They might not even need 2 weeks or whatever. Those extended periods of time, do not associate those with your emotions, because you're going to go overboard. Make sure they're kind of short term, and talk to them what it's going to be like. Make sure it is short term, so that they can learn from it and move on. Not, see, because the longer it is, the more punishable. And when the more punished it is, the angrier. Then the less enlightened, the less receptive they are to what you were trying to say. They internalize it. And I'll tell you, I've seen it where it's gotten on television, where it's gotten crazy, where some kids, and it happens all over. I think it gets to a point where you see it in the media and you're like, wow, how could that child have done that? Right? And see, people look at the child and go, oh my God, like, that child went in and attacked the parent. And, why are they so angry at the parent? And why would they do that to their parent? Well, I would say let's get on the side of percentages. A lot of them would have internalized something somewhere. And people say, "Oh, I didn't even know what my kid was going through." Sometimes you treat them good. No, there's a really good way to tell. If you're in touch with your kid, can you tell all the time? No. I'm going to tell you there are times where they can get you. But if they're on it like that, where they've been consequence and they build up that real hate, I've seen it even in the media where they internalize it and it comes out in so many different ways. And sometimes it comes out with that aggression, not just unforgive. You know what I mean? Where they internalize it and then boom, over time it's just too harsh, too harsh, too harsh, and they become hardened. No, we have to give them an understanding that, yes, we understand you're going through this. Yes, you're learning. Yes, this is a process you have to go through. But this is what's going to happen. You're going to get this. This is what's going to happen. And this is what we're going to do. We'll talk about it later. But you want them to learn quickly. You want them to move on. You don't want them to internalize it. You know, you don't want to make it too bad for them. You don't want them to internalize it too much on the wrong way. Don't make it too harsh. It's not good. Don't add statements, especially those punitive statements like, you know, I warned you. I warned you. See, I told you this is going to happen. This is what you're going to be dealing with if you keep doing that, but you didn't listen. You don't want to be bringing those statements in, you know? You want to make sure that you're not triggering them because those comments and statements, like you should have listened to me, you never listened to me, that's going to bring some anger, some frustration. They're going to resent you instead of being receptive and following you and focusing on what you're trying to accomplish and really respecting how they should be behaving. You're doing the opposite. You're digging at them. And, you're poking at them. Set your consequence. Lay it down. Be clear. Short term. Make it what it got to be. Be fair. And try not to be emotional when you're making it. Sometimes it's okay to say, you know what? We're going to discuss it. Give them choice to think. Don't go so hard. So, you know what? This is what it is. You're going to be grounded. I'm going to think. Give me a minute to think about it. Let me just think about what's happening. Don't go too far, but just, we got to talk about I got to think about this. And take time to think. Don't just make those judgments. Don't just make those consequences too bad for them because it doesn't become a learning moment after a while. After a while, they're not learning. And, it's like you're standing in front of them and they don't even see you because they got this blind hate or rage inside of them. And I'm telling you, that's what a lot of young people are dealing with. Not a lot. A number of them I see on the news that are very frustrated. They're internalizing a lot. And it's coming out in so many different ways. And people say, oh, it starts at home. That's where part of it can start. You could be doing the shutdown, right? You could be doing it in your consequences. And if that's one thing. Some people even take it so far and they take that from, they get emotional and they want to deal with their children and they want a consequence and they go too far and they end up hitting the kid, even a teenager. And it's because maybe that's how you learn to deal. Things got to get better. Remember how people cope. A lot of times they've seen it. Think about it. Look at generations before you. How did they handle things? How did they communicate? You don't want to create an angry, but you got to apply something. And you can't be afraid of it. Or let me change that statement. You can be afraid of them if you use it as they could overpower me. I'm going to make sure I got some support if I'm laying this down. Maybe if you're a uncle or someone and you got to lay this thing down, maybe you could have someone. And it's not just for power reasons. Okay, it could be a man consequencing his son, and he could be a hothead. Maybe you might be his partner and might say, listen, you know what? You got to lay it down, but I want to make sure it doesn't get out of control because he's going to challenge, and then, I'll be the balance here. Work it out together. And if you can't, and you're a single parent, you got work to do, right? And the best thing I could do is to do, whenever you're dealing, like even with young people, because it becomes so complex, I just strongly recommend that parents, a lot of the times, and you all know this is true, most parents want to pick up that book and read about the baby when they first have the baby. Think about that. Let me say that again. When people have babies, they want to learn, especially before the even baby comes out. A lot of mothers will go and do all kinds of reading up on the baby. right, on how it is and what they're expecting. Because it's new to them, and it's great if they do it. Not all parents do it, but the majority do. Because they got something coming. They're excited. They want to learn about the baby. But then after they have the baby, a lot of them drop the book. Right? A lot of them are going, well, I'm so busy. I don't know. Pick the book up and keep reading a little bit here and there. You know what I mean? And I'm not just talking about the mother. I'm talking about the father too. Talking about the transgender, the gay, the homo lesbian, whoever. All of us have to educate on our children. There are people that need us to learn about them. We need to develop. We need to develop as parents. We need to develop as support. People who take in kids and want to take care of them, we still need to develop. We got to develop ourselves to be better. There's always room to improve for better. Just doing little things sometimes, right? Learning. You could be a person that's made a lot of mistakes, and you could just pick up and start learning a little bit more about, you know, different approaches and open mind, and it only might even help out in that time in your life, but it did its job. Doesn't have to apply for always, but sometimes, learn a little bit about it. If you're having issues, sometimes it ain't good enough just to talk to people. But when you are dealing with this, even with your own children, especially when you have to impart some consequences, as long as you're not punitive, right? And that child's getting an understanding. They might not like it, but they got an understanding, and you're not going too far. If you got the partner with you, great. If you don't, you got work to do, and you're going to be fine. But you don't need a partner. You can get a friend, a family member to support you. Okay? However the situation is, that power that we have, we could use it. But it also can empower us. So if we need to even get professional help, we got to stop the stereotyping on what it looks like if we're going for help, what our kids are going to look. No, we have to work with what we got, and we got to get help professional if we need it. Forget it. Work on it. Don't make it personal when you're dealing with a disrespectful teenager. It's easy to do. Don't get caught up in your emotions. Don't make that mistake. Focus on the behavior, not the person. Make it easier for yourself. Try to stay relaxed, at ease. Allow you to be calm. Allow yourself to calm down so that you can both avoid getting over emotional. Try not to take it personal. One thing that I find is that even sometimes, as hard as I try, there can be times where I'm arguing, even for a short period of time. And I'm like, So try to avoid unnecessary arguments if you can. It's easy to get, brought in, pushed in, or pulled in, to an argument. It's just certain things that you go, and then you just get caught up. So, understanding as well when you are arguing with the teenagers, it rarely works out good. They escalate often out of control. Because when we get angry, we always say things. I'm saying this, people. When you get angry, you're going to say things that you don't mean. And you're going to regret them, and you often do regret them later. Right? Try to avoid getting into a power struggle with the young people. Because you will regret excessive arguing, and you'd be surprised how long it could go on. During this time, even at COVID-19, right? Like, there's a lot of people arguing out there, and they feel that, what? Oh, they're being triggered. The more you're triggered, the more it's happening. It's like a domino effect, right? But you don't want to be there, but you just keep this in mind. I'm going to try to avoid it. I would take a calendar, mark it down. Oh, did I argue today? Whatever. If you find it's getting consistent too much, then hey, I got to get some help, some support, something that's getting out of control. But you want to avoid those unnecessary arguments. They're going to go through all these different emotions, these teenagers, these adolescents, they're having challenges controlling their emotions. You have to control yours. You have to model the difference. You have to. And don't be pointing the finger and always pointing outward. Always pointing outward. Always exerting your power is not good. You are going to be confronting some young minds that are developing. So if you're saying you're this type of person, you're disrespectful, you're selfish, you're rude, try to avoid it. That is something that, number one, they're not only going to get their backs up, you're going to be feeling like crap. And you know what? You are going to be the type of person that has them walking on eggshells, or they're going to be very confrontational. You are being the judge, you're exerting all your power, and you just push them into a shell and they become reactive and they start to feel sad and then they don't know what to do with themselves. And the lesson that you were trying to teach them is not working anymore, and you are not successful at all. And anything that you tried to accomplish did not work because all you're doing is pointing outward. And your victim over there is sitting there trying to defend themselves, and you have twice to three times as much experience as them, and all you're showing them is everything is their fault. And then there are ones that internalize that. You don't think they do. I told you, this internalization thing, things you say matter. And there are parents, and I've heard it several times, like, oh, you know what? There's a lot going in now. Yes. And a lot of the times these kids are triggered. Do kids have instances where it doesn't happen? Very rarely does some things happen. And they happen because of influencers. But it doesn't all have to be in one place. It could be influencers on the street. It could be influencers on at home. It could be influencers at the workplace. But instead of thinking in absolutes, we need to start thinking about influencers could be a little bit of influence from work, a little bit of influence from home, a little bit of influence. That's where they get influence, and depending on whether it was positive or negative, that's where their state of mind is. So stop thinking in absolute. It's only happening at work. Could be a number of things. So keeping this in mind, we have to be more detectives than directives, telling them everything that they got to do. Detectives means I'm going to try to figure out what the cause of some of this behavior is and try to understand it and come from that approach rather than come from the other approach of lack of understanding, right? I'm there to do something. I'm there to teach and support and love and care and show that I make mistakes and I can understand, or I can try to understand you. Because I understand you have to develop yourself in this world. Beautiful. If you can do that, you got something to talk about. You're doing some good work. And if you can open your eyes, you're doing some good work. Nothing is absolute, meaning, oh, this, no. People do that. They give that excuse. Oh, you can't do it. Nothing's going to work all the time. You hear those people? That's what they, oh, no, it's not working out. That's an excuse. Make it work. Go with the intention that it's going to work and apply it and watch it work. But be committed to whatever you're going to do. Don't be half committed. There's so many people that try to talk us out of, that you have in your life that will try to change us into just the little things that they say can have an influence on decisions that you make, right? Like when you're really determined to do something, someone will come on along with their self-doubt. Oh, you could do it, but if this doesn't happen, then watch out for that. No. If you got your mindset, work on it. Yes, there will be bumps, but the bumps will be something that you're going to have to learn from because nothing's guaranteed. A lot of us aren't doing the right thing because we're breaking ourselves before we break out the gate, right? We're breaking our confidence, our understanding and appreciation, and our understanding that we have to empower ourselves and use that personal power to get things done. That's what I'm talking about. So the counselor wants to say, we had a great talk today about these teenage um, disrespectful use. And there's so many things that we could do. But we're going to have a part two on this. because I got more to say. I think this is such a great subject that we have to go deeper. So I want you to be like the wise old Bert and spread the word. I love your support. I want more people to spread the word. I do. I want people to understand what we're talking about here is supporting each other and coming up and thinking and reflecting, right? I love having people who are listening do some thinking. And the best thinking you can do is when it comes to people, because we got some people work to do. We got to use that personal power to put people back on the map. We got to understand and work. We got to support each other more. This is the time, more than in history, where we as people have to truly start getting back to what matters. See, what matters. Too many of us are being told what matters out there through that TV, through that cell phone, through that parent who's got one star on their agenda and it's just to get this little need met. What they think of. There's so many things going on that we could do, so much good we could do in this world. But we have to understand each other better and be open to the truth. And the truth is in our youth. Working with them, understanding we've been there, we can work, we can open our eyes and keep this thing going and understand that we should be looking at ourselves and these younger generations and going, wait, through our experience, we should be passing that down to the young people to care and love about each other. Put that love, that human side, right? Put that back into people. Then we can reverse whatever we want to reverse. We can stop what we want to stop. If we, as even older people, start thinking about how we need to develop some of these young people, we'll know one thing. We'll know they need a future. See, a lot of the things that are going on right now, if we even thought that way, hey, we have a job to do. We can live the most beautiful life, but we still have a job to do. We have to serve. We have to learn from each other. And see, in this world, you can see it, look around. There's a lot of learning that still needs to be done. When we thought we learned something in this last 300-400 years, we still have a lot of learning to do. Learning, and you can see, especially in 2020, that we have to learn about each other, how to love and respect each other, and understand that instead of us trying to get at each other, we got to get with each other and understand we're all human beings that should be learning and helping others learn and supporting everyone and making sure we got enough and that we are on the same page, that if we are to survive as a species, we got to look at what we're doing. And the only way to look at what we're doing is to get some fresh pair of eyes, because the eyes that are over 55, 60 already got their story. They're not going to tell a new story. They're worried about their survival, half of them, in the next story. A lot of them are just taking... It's a different generation today. I even see that people that were born in the 50s that are still around today, they have their own agenda. See, they were coming from a different perspective. Those are the type of people that today, they want their freedom, but they're older, so they're just like, oh, this is me. I'm doing mine. I raised mine. This is, you know what I mean? No, it's different. This generation and next, we got to make some changes. So we got to look at the young people, how we're going to make these changes. So when they are being disrespectful, we got to understand, what are they screaming about? There's something going on here. And work with that. So anyways, I want to say thank you to my listeners. And until we speak again, I'm going to do Disrespectful Teens Part 2.